So, to begin with, many thanks to Teach for Bulgaria for inviting me to come back to Sofia. I'm thrilled to be here, and let me say to old friends and new that it's a pleasure to see you in three gorgeous dimensions. I've been asked to talk to you about teacher empowerment. It's an important concept, a key plank of school reform agendas in your country and mine. After all, empowerment is about ensuring that teachers have the infrastructure, governmental and non-governmental, that's needed to succeed. Policies and resources, technological resources. I'm looking at you, Prepodavame. Programs and preparation programs and professional development. It's about the crucial support and guidance that principals and assistant principals can provide, inspiring self-confidence and creativity. In short, it's about all the structures that scaffold the people who build our collective future. So who can argue with empowerment? To pick up on Troyan's building metaphor, if you visit a construction site, you might argue with the building's plans or materials or style, but who can argue with the scaffolding that's holding up the builders? Well, as it turns out, I can. And as you can see, I've added a question mark to the term empowerment because it's never made total sense to me. Let me explain. Empowerment implies that by ourselves, we teachers and school leaders, most of us women, have no power. Someone or some institution has to give it to us. Well, I don't believe that for a minute. I believe that teaching is inherently powerful. Hearing about some of your innovations, I'm reminded just how powerful teachers are. We take the initiative, we use our knowledge and experience to innovate, we use all of our intellectual and emotional resources to reach individual learners. We create tools, we make things happen. At our best, we make learning come alive. And in the process, we change lives. That's our superpower. And if we change enough lives, we shape generations. I don't just think that we change lives. I know it from research, and I know it from my own experience, and I dare say that you do too. I'm sure most of you can recall a teacher, perhaps several, who made a real and lasting difference in your life, encouraged you, inspired you, modeled a love of inquiry and learning. Perhaps there was a teacher who saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. Maybe a teacher noticed that you were too shy to audition for the school play and gave you a chance to write the script instead. That happened to me. I picked up a pen and I never put it down. And by the way, I'm not the only writer who is grateful to teachers. Last month, I, along with 20 million other people, watched the Academy Awards. Almost as much fun as the awards today. The Oscars. The big winners were two men who wrote and directed a movie called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. When I heard that title, I was sure it had to be about teachers. Okay, I've got it.
Oscar goes to.
So you can imagine the Oscars.
Daniel Scheinert.
Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert began conceiving their screenplay in 2010, eventually organizing and narrowing down their fragmented ideas by 100.
other teachers that changed my life, most of them public school teachers. Miss Dumeyer, Mr. Toole, Mr. Hudson, Mr. Chambers, Madame George, Miss NFL, Ken Cheeseman, Mirta Tochi, Joan Darling, and Edith Hallman. You guys educated me, you inspired me, and you taught me to be less of a butthead. Your turn.
Okay, so this wasn't the usual speech. This wasn't the usual acceptance speech. You know, usually they get up and they thank a cast of thousands. They thank their agents, they thank their directors, their camera operators. Daniel Scheinert thanked his teachers. He thanked 10 of them, and one of them was the 4th grade teacher named Miss Dumeyer. And here she is. She had her 15 minutes of fame when she was interviewed about teaching the Oscar Award winner. And when she was interviewed, she said, people wanted to know what amazing techniques did you use to produce this screenwriter and director who won like 10 or 12 Academy Awards. She said, I don't remember doing anything special. She was just doing what she did every day for 30 years. And in the process, she changed lives. And not only Daniel's, I'm sure. So I wanted, out of respect, to acknowledge Ms. Dumeyer and the other 9 teachers who were mentioned. You see, Empowerment Frame, thinking about empowerment, looks at teaching from the outside in. I'm inviting you to look at teaching from the inside out. Certainly you need all the external resources and supports to help you succeed. I'm not for a minute letting policymakers off the hook. It's high time that, like Daniel Scheinert, we recognize teachers' value and give them their due in your country and mine, including the working conditions and compensation that are needed to succeed and to stay in the profession. So let me take a minute to address the administrators and policymakers in the room. A key resource that teachers need is the time to finish what they start. Students suffer when policymakers' priority and initiatives constantly change. Too many good ideas are buried under layers of abandoned reform efforts. So innovation is a beautiful thing if, and it's a big if, teachers have the time to incorporate new strategies into their practice and to adapt those strategies to the strengths, needs, and interests of the young people in their classrooms. Students suffer when their leaders constantly add to teachers' responsibilities without taking anything off their plates. Teachers also need time and opportunities to collaborate. Earlier, I said that school leaders can inspire self-confidence and creativity, and that's true. But no one motivates or encourages teachers more than their peers, their colleagues in school. Indeed, that's why we're all here today. So bottom line, external supports do matter, but changing lives is not just about what you do or what resources you have, it's also about who you are. It's your inner resources that give you the capacity for connectedness that goes to the heart of teaching. It's your inner resources that give you the courage to teach, and believe me, it does take courage. I learned that years ago when I worked at Brooklyn College, and I was asked to teach a group of Soviet emigres. These were middle-aged adults, former scientists and mathematicians, who had left their laboratories behind, and they were preparing to teach in New York City public schools. They were going to teach math and science in high schools. I was awed by the courage it took to leave their homeland and their prestigious positions and to begin again. And I imagined that other challenges would pale in comparison. And yet, as they prepared to teach American teenagers, For the first time, their anxiety was palpable. "Relax, guys," I said casually. "It's not rocket science." And I'll never forget the way a biophysicist named Boris fixed his eyes on me through his rectangular glasses. "Rocket science, we know," he said. "This is more difficult." And, he was right. He understood that the human brain, from a scientific point of view, he understood that the human brain, with its trillions of synapses and its intricate neural networks, is the most complex phenomenon in the known universe. And as cognitive scientists tell us, myriad factors influence how the mind develops and how young people think and learn. So it's no simple matter to connect with another mind, especially if that meeting of the mind is taking place over a generational, cultural, or language gap. So back to our biophysicist buddies. Someone in the class turned to him and said, "Not to worry, buddies, it's just a matter of loving the students." Does that strike you as naive? Maybe. That's how it struck me. So I chimed in with something I'd once heard a master teacher say. "Will you love every student? No, you will not. Will you like every student? No, you will not. Some will drive you crazy. And by the way, those students are never absent." It's true. But it's the students who drive you crazy who have the most to teach you. And it's the students who drive you crazy who have the most to gain from connection with you. And that's why they don't want to miss a day. Love helps, but it's not as important as showing up physically, intellectually, and emotionally. Like all students, the tough one learns not just from what you do, but from who you are. Because, and please, if you take home only one idea from this talk, let it be this: everything that happens in a school is curriculum. Students learn all the time, wherever they are. They take in everything. They process everything. Their busy minds don't wait for the bell to ring or the lesson to start. They sense how you are seeing them. They feel and respond to your high expectations, and they respond just as powerfully to low expectations, what we call the soft bigotry of low expectations. Some may seem bored or lazy. Some may always have excuses. The dog ate my homework. But believe me, they don't want to be excused from their futures. Moreover, students notice how we adults interact with each other. They're watching us, eager for clues about what matters to us, about our values, our biases, and yes, about our feelings. They learn not just from what we teach, but who we are. When we admit mistakes, they learn candor and forgiveness. When we cooperate with each other, they learn to work as a team. When we show our enthusiasm, we give them permission to show theirs. So, next slide, please. I've said that the capacity to change lives is our superpower. But as we know from Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Responsibility for what, you might ask? Well, let me highlight 3 points, mindful that I know I'm preaching to the choir. First, we must hold ourselves accountable for improving outcomes for students and not just test results. I'm talking about academic attainment and student well-being and student agency, all 3 areas emphasized by Teach for Bulgaria. Students need to thrive in all 3 areas to have lives of their own choosing. And I think that's really what all of us want for our children, our own children and the children we teach. Responsibility means continually rethinking and improving our own practice. For me, that means opening a classroom door so teachers and leaders can see what we're doing, can learn, can make suggestions, so that we can work as a team, as a community of practice, honestly appraising instruction, and then doing it again and again, finding better ways to keep every student on track. So it means seizing opportunities to visit other classrooms and other schools. These are big asks. But for me, responsibility goes further, and so we have the third point. Each and every one of us is responsible for continually examining our own assumptions and values, and in particular, for confronting honestly our unspoken assumptions about who can learn and who can succeed. So all children can learn. It's become a mantra of education around the world. But I'm going to ask a tough question. How many of us understand it literally, that all means all? I think, and I've done it myself, too often we pay lip service to the notion of equity while telling ourselves that some children will inevitably fail and that some students simply don't care or have parents who don't care. I get it. I've had my own disappointments. Students, I have to say mostly graduate students, who did not respond to what I thought were my very best efforts. So I've told myself that I tried my best. No one could expect more, a little bit of self-pity. I've hoped for better outcomes, but in the end, here's what I learned. Hope is not a strategy. So it's important to look at the evidence. Are some students destined to fail? Both research and experience say no. Of course, we can all think of students whose life circumstances seem overwhelming. The odds seem to be stacked against them. But here's what I learned decades ago from a researcher named Ron Edmonds, and I've never forgotten it. If even one school finds ways to lift up students who face the same risks that ours do, if even one classroom teacher consistently helps them thrive and succeed, then we can't say these kids can't learn. We can't absolve ourselves from responsibility. We have a duty to explore how those leaders and those teachers succeed, and to test and adapt their strategies for our own students. We need to understand what makes some students resilient and how educators can build on their strengths. In short, we need to study and apply effective strategies, but we don't have to do it alone. No school is an island. So when our students with special needs fall through the cracks, when students pass but still fall well short of their potential, when our students don't regain momentum the way we want them to after losing time to the pandemic, when they are disengaged, when children are bullied, when they're too anxious or insecure to focus on schoolwork, when students leave school early. In all those situations, we need to understand what some schools are doing to help them succeed. So we really need to hear from you about what works and what doesn't. It's one of the reasons I was so thrilled to hear that there were literally hundreds of proposals that came to Teach for America from all of you. Don't keep your best ideas to yourself. That's like stuffing money in a mattress. You can feel good that it's there, but if it doesn't circulate, it doesn't do anyone any good. Your young people need your expertise, your experience, and your candor. That's why the conference organizers have called us together. That's why we're all here, and I, for one, can't wait to hear what you have to say. So thank you very much. And before I leave the podium, let me thank my third grade teacher, Mrs. Evelyn Matthews, and and let me thank all the people here who have been my teachers, who have helped me learn about education here in Bulgaria, as well as some general ideas about education, and who have been so important to me as mentors. You know who you are. Thank you so much.